Hello folks, welcome to OTD, also known as On the Deck, where you can get all the sports you need in 10 minutes. My name is Adam Orduna. This is my mom, Gina.
He's a journalist.
She's the enthusiast.
I am so enthusiastic. It is the pinnacle of college football,
yes,
finally.
Exactly.
We have made it. We have some champions who've already been crowned.
Right.
And then the big daddy of all is coming on Monday.
Absolutely. Well, let's break down, first off, just to give everyone a little bit of insight to what we're wearing. We are wearing our Chiefs gear today. As some of you tuned in for our Facebook Live just a few minutes ago, today's the big day for the Kansas City Chiefs. We are hosting the AFC Wildcard Playoff game.
Against
As
the
you
Titans.
said, we won our division.
We won our
the
division.
AFC West.
They're in the
for
wild
the second
card.
straight year. But the Tennessee Titans are in the wild card playoff spot. So that's why we are decked out in our Chiefs gear today.
That's right.
But anyways, this episode is going to be about college football and all the championships that have taken place, and then the big daddy of them all, like you said, on Monday, the national championship between Alabama and Georgia. But we're going to break down from all the way in NAIA, and then we'll work our way up to Monday, and we're going to talk about kind of how things have gotten up to this point.
Can I do
so
something
far.
totally unprofessional?
Absolutely.
I want to shout out Brandon Banks.
Brandon Banks
Is watching.
Yes.
And my cousin Ashton, who just had a birthday.
Yes.
Okay, now let's
Right.
get into it. All right, well, let's start with the NAIA. They had their playoffs and their championship, and it was St. Francis out of Indiana who played Reinhardt, a college out of Georgia. And St. Francis won, so congratulations, St. Francis.
And they played in the national,
and they were in there last year.
Yep.
The repeat champion, St. Francis for the NAIA. Now I need Midland University to come on
and that's a good program. They're working their way up too.
Let's get there. All right. Well, then also D3 crowned their champion. You have Mount Union played Mary Hardin Baylor, and wasn't Mary Hardin Baylor in there last year?
They were in there last year as well. First time they ever won the national championship was last year, so they made it back again.
They made it back. Unfortunately, they didn't win. Mount Union got that W. So congratulations, Mount Union.
Juggernaut in the Division III level. So
D3 champs, congrats Mount Union.
Right. Well, and then in Kansas City, we hosted the Division II national championship.
We covered that last year.
We did cover it last year. Northwest Missouri State was the eventual national champions.
And then they went football and basketball last year.
They did win football and basketball. They didn't make it this year, but that's okay.
Was rough.
And that's all right. It didn't always have to be our team.
But the game was still in Kansas City.
The game was still in Kansas City. It was a great turnout. It wasn't quite as bad as it was last year for the temperature, but there was still weather that made it difficult for those players. So you had a team out of Texas A&M Commerce versus West Florida, who both Southern teams coming up to the Midwest playing in the cold temperatures.
It wasn't even that cold. It was like 40-something degrees.
Exactly.
You know, from the South, they can't handle
West Florida and Texas.
They wouldn't have made it last year.
Wow. No, they wouldn't. They had to shovel snow off the field last year. But the eventual national champion was Texas A&M Commerce.
Good job.
So congratulations to them. And then we have the big game, the FCS national championship.
Right.
I don't know how many times these two teams have played each other. Starting at noon kickoff, North Dakota State and James Madison. I bet between North Dakota State and Sam Houston State have been, and then James Madison have been.
If you go back the last 10 years, it's one of those three schools.
One of the three teams are playing in the national championship.
Well, that's a hats off to those programs, though.
And they continue to dominate and continue to put themselves in great position. You love to watch those kids play because a lot of those kids were overlooked by bigger schools at the
or have a little trouble in the FBS and had to, go there. But for the most part, though, those are kids recruited straight to the FCS.
And those kids are on full ride scholarship. They're really good athletes.
And there's good programs, good stadiums.
They get picked up in the NFL.
Bo Pelini's over at Youngstown State in FCS program.
Exactly. There's a number of guys that you can go down the list.
Well, and your boy Carson Wentz came out of North Dakota
his
State.
Alma mater back in the national championship. So that's going to be a great game to watch. I don't even know who to pick because both teams have been really good this year. North Dakota State's kind of been up and down, but they still dominated like always. And James Madison, they're a disciplined team. They're going to have a good quarterback as well. So that's going to be
I'm going to go ahead and just pick James Madison just to be a contrarian.
Yep.
So go James Madison.
I would just keep it even. I'm going to go with North Dakota State.
Perfect.
I would like to pick James Madison, though. I think they might win this one. Okay, so then we've got Monday's game, Georgia and Alabama.
Why do you say it like that?
Well, I'm just not as that excited as I would be if it was Oklahoma or Clemson or somebody else. We have another all-SEC national championship. It was just a couple years ago that we had Alabama and LSU. And so here we go again, where we have two SEC teams. Now, congratulations to them. They did what they were supposed to do.
That was the worst congratulations ever. Now, congratulations.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not that excited for it. I know it's going to be a slugfest, and it's going to be a 10-7 victory for somebody, probably Alabama, but that's what it's going to be. So I know I didn't do a great job of pumping up that game, but
well, I think the rest of us felt the same way.
Yeah.
You know, here's the thing. What we're not going to do is take this and say all of a sudden the SEC is the best conference in the country. The SEC has 2.5 teams that are decent in their conference, and 2 of those are playing.
Right.
But the FCC's number 3, Auburn, just got whooped by old Scott Frost and the UCF Knights.
Correct.
So I am not going to take this because these 2 teams are in the national championship and say, oh, clearly the SEC is the best. I'll leave that for the SEC fans.
Right.
What I am going to say is in the current, pick of who you want playoff system, Georgia had to go to double overtime, slinging and slugging, and limp their way in. Now, Alabama did give a pretty good beatdown, a good whooping to Clemson.
But was anyone actually surprised by that game? I mean, we've been calling it the whole time.
Nope. Which brings me to, I'll just do spoiler alert, Alabama's going to win this game. Let's be clear. All it took for Nick Saban was one little kick in the pants.
Yes.
That little bitty loss to Auburn. And let's be clear, I know they struggled against some teams and they played, it wasn't the Citadel, they played somebody terrible at the end of the season.
Yeah.
And I get that heat. This is Alabama. Right. And Nick Saban kept saying, the more you pump up my team, the harder it is for me. So as soon as they lost to Auburn, Nick was like,
yes. Finally, I get to really turn it up on them. He
got in there and whooped them, and they're going to whoop everybody else. Alabama, I call it big, too. I have a friend, my best friend, actually, her cousin, Blazevich, is a tight end for Georgia. I want to root for them just on love, but the fact of the matter is Oklahoma took everything out of Georgia.
I agree with that.
They had a double overtime game 5 days ago.
Yes.
Alabama's going to come and just... I mean, and so to that end, all that being said, Kendrick Lamar is a halftime show.
He is. Yep.
No, listen, it's going to be a game worth watching. It's college football. But, I don't think the SEC is the best conference. Quite frankly, I think the Big Ten might have ultimately been the best conference this year. Followed, for me, by the Big 12.
Yes.
Then the SEC, then the ACC, and the poor Pac-12. Y'all need to get it together.
They need to figure it out. They need to move up the ACC or the AAC and then move down to Pac-12.
Right, and the Pac-12 is one hot step above the AAC.
Right,
and everybody's talking about, well, it's the level of competition. Well, let's talk about that.
Well, I got plenty of time to talk about the level of competition.
Let's talk about that because UCF coming out of there beat Auburn.
Yes,
they did. And beat them roundly. And they played great ball. And USF is a darn good team.
USF.
Houston is a good team. Cincinnati is a good team.
Cincinnati, exactly. Navy is a really good team.
Name me the teams up and down the Pac-12 that you would stack up week after week. Now I get it. The caliber of athlete, the facilities, and it's a more the money, all of that.
More traditional conference. We understand that.
I get that.
Right.
But you can't just soundly say, oh, the competition. Well, talk to me about who Alabama played this year.
Correct.
Playing. Gosh, why can't I call? It was like Mary Hardin Baylor. It was somebody terrible.
Sister Mary of the Poor at the end of the
season.
Exactly.
Then you got Clemson playing Citadel at the end of the season.
Yep.
So, miss me on that. And everybody's like, oh, they need to play bigger teams at the beginning.
Wasn't it like Stony Brook or something like that?
It was something terrible. It was our JV squad from the high school.
Exactly. I mean, it's like you might as well just take a bye week, and I would have more respect for a bye week than you guys playing
and injuring somebody else's
football team from nowhere state. Like that's not even don't do that.
So back to the point. I've been saying this all season. I think you don't need a big fire. What's it called? A group
a power five. Yep.
You should have power 6 and group of 4.
I agree.
The AAC should be considered as a power conference. And I know there's so many people out there. Oh, she's a mom. She knows what she's talking about. I watch everything on football. I study the game, and I'm telling you, between Memphis, Cincinnati, Houston, UCF, USF,
Navy,
exactly. You've got teams that are competitive every year who go back and check your top 25 week after week.
Yep.
They started out with South Florida in there in like the top 20.
Yeah, top 15.
And they kept somebody in the top 25 all year.
Yep.
And then you look at who the Pac-12 would pop in there, Arizona, and pop out.
Yep, exactly. Arizona State pop out.
In, pop out.
No Utah this year. Colorado was non-existent.
Come on. Oregon would go in there and
UCLA was a no-show. USC.
Oh, which, by the way, thank you, K-State, for beating down UCLA.
Exactly. Oregon, where were you at this year? I mean, seriously, you can go down the list of the entire Pac-12 and say, well, there really wasn't a team that you could count on this year. But you could count on South Florida.
Yeah,
you could count on Central Florida. You could count on Navy.
You could count on Memphis.
You can count on Houston. There's a lot of teams in that conference that are very competitive for football and basketball.
I agree.
And there's no reason for them to not be
a
Power 6
moving
forward. But
well, let's get an 8-team. How about this? Let's get an 8-team playoff.
Right.
And then you know that your Power 5 conference champions will have some place in there. Doesn't mean you're top 1 through 5. You're just seated in there somewhere. And you leave room for these group of 5 and probably always the AAC champion to get in there too.
Correct.
But what we'll do
another day.
That's a talk for another day. What we're not going to do is say the SEC is the best conference.
Correct.
Right now they have 2 teams playing the championship.
They do.
I'm calling Alabama,
Monday?
and I know you said 10-7. I'm telling you, it's going to be. I bet it's going to be a 28-14 or 28-10.
And it probably will be, to be quite honest.
Nick Saban is going to put his whole foot.
He will. Oh yeah.
In that bulldog
to make sure that everyone knows that I'm not.
Everybody knows.
Mr. Nick. So
forget Saint Nick. I'm Mr. Nick.
Right.
Spelled with an M-R period. Roll Tide.
Right. Well.
And how about this? Go Chiefs.
Go Chiefs. Exactly. Well, we're going to continue to give you our shows on Saturdays. Thank you.
Because somebody is on the air Monday through Friday.
I am extremely busy now, but I'm glad that we still get a chance to do our show. Thank you for tuning in.
We love you guys.
We love you guys, and continue to stay tuned. We'll see you again, folks.
Bye, Facebook.
All right, guys.